Todd from Sideshow Effects once again, and in this video I'm going to go through the installation procedure of our Pro Tools Pro Profiles pack for the Stream Deck XL and Stream Deck MK devices. Now I'm going to be demonstrating this on the XL device, but the principles are all the same with the MK device. Now this is the Mac version. We currently do not have a Windows version, so it's going to be for Mac users only. Now if you've used any of our DAW products in the past, the setup procedure is fairly similar. The first procedure we're going to do is we're going to open up our Audio MIDI Studio. So it would be the Audio MIDI setup. And you would open up the MIDI Studio. So if I just shut it for a second, you would see it under Window, Show MIDI Studio. And you'll double click on this port here, the properties. And we're going to enter in a few new ports. Now, you may have your own ports here or none at all. Just ignore these because these are from some other installations that I've got on this system. We're going to add a couple new ones. Now we're going to hit the plus, and that gives us an empty bus. We're going to double click this to rename it. The first one we're going to name, and capitalization is important, so we're going to title it capital S, capital D, number 2, capital P, Pro, capital T, SD2 to Pro Tools. We'll hit the plus again to create a second one. Click into it, and this will be capital P, RO, capital T, OOLS, Pro Tools, the number 2, and capital S, capital D. So Pro Tools to SD. Those are the two ports that you've now entered, and we're going to just click apply now. The other thing to keep in mind is keep the device name blank and make sure Devices Online is selected. Now we can close this down since we have those MIDI ports now assigned. The next thing to do, if you haven't already, you may already have the MIDI plugin from Trevliga Spell loaded in your Stream Deck device. If not, you would click on the marketplace and just do a search for MIDI. And it'll be this first one here under Plugins, MIDI by Trevliga Spell. You click on this, and if you don't have it installed, it will say Get here, and if you're logged into your account, since I am logged in and I have the MIDI already loaded, it would tell me, it would instruct me to open in Stream Deck. So if you don't have it, click on Get, and it will self-install into your software. And you just want to double check that you've got it installed. You can go to the preferences here, go to plugins, and you can see that it's listed in the sidebar here, MIDI, and you can check for updates if you need to. Now the next thing we're going to do is in your pack you've downloaded from us, you're going to go to the plugin folder, and there's our Mouse Move Stream Deck plugin. So with your Stream Deck software open, you would double click this to install it, and it would install into your plugins in your Stream Deck software. I already have that loaded. And then you can go ahead and load in the Stream Deck profile depending on which device you're using, either the MK, which is the 15 key device, or the XL, which is the 32 key device. You would double click this with your Stream Deck software open, and it will load into your Stream Deck software. And remember, if you have more than one device, as I do, it will ask you which device you want to load it into. You want to load it into your XL or your MK device. Now I already have mine loaded, and this is what it will look like when it pops up. Now let's go into Pro Tools itself. The first thing we want to do is assign the keyboard shortcuts. So you'll go into Setup, Keyboard Shortcuts, and you'll go into the drop-down menu here, and you would say Import Settings. And you go into the Sideshow Effects keyboard preset, and you would select the preset file right here, Sideshow Effects keyboard mapping preset. I already have it loaded, so when you do load that in, it will show up here, Sideshow Effects keyboard mapping, and you want to make sure this is the one that's selected. And keep in mind, as stated on the product page, this profile requires you to be using an English keyboard layout. So a QWERTY keyboard layout as opposed to a German or a French keyboard layout. So you have to have the English version. You would click OK, and now your keyboard mapping will be correct. Next thing we want to do is assign the MIDI ports. So we'll go into Setup, Peripherals, and go to the MIDI Controllers tab. Under Type, you'll pick Hui, and Receive From, and because we installed those two ports in the Audio MIDI setup, they should appear under Predefined, and we'll select for the MIDI from SD Pro Tools, and the Send to Predefined Pro Tools to SD. And make sure your channel numbers are set at 8. You can then say OK. And lastly, you go into the Setup, you go into MIDI, MIDI input devices, and you should be able to see the MIDI ports loaded here. SD to Pro Tools should be checked. Pro Tools to SD should be unchecked. Very important that you make sure that your configuration looks like that with these two listed. And say OK. Now it's all fully set up. Go to your profile and you'll find that you'll have control over your Pro Tools session. These keys along here represent the different commands that would be available in the menu system of Pro Tools itself, so you can explore those, and as always you can rearrange them to suit your workflow. Under Edit Tool, these tools mimic the same actions as this bank of tools up here on the interface. If we go into the Mute Solo, this will allow us some track functionality to solo and mute up to 8 tracks at a time. You can see on the first track I can solo, mute, I can change the channel as to which one is highlighted at any particular time, and I can also change the bank. So if I have more than 8 tracks on my project, this will switch us from one bank to the other and back again. We also can get into track recording select, so I can arm a track for recording. The Edit Tool Selection button will cycle us through the different tools at the top here. And the Edit mode will allow us to switch between shuffle, spot, slip, and grid. So let's switch over to the custom area now. And with this, we are able to control different parameters of VSTs in Pro Tools using your Stream Deck device. And I'll demonstrate. Let's say on this track I'm just going to install a delay effect. Now we've got 3 controls here. And let's say I want to use my Stream Deck device to control these. What I can do is I can assign different keys on the device to control these parameters. So if I take my mouse and I hover it over this mono parameter, and I can choose any of the keys on this page, I'm going to press and hold in this key. You can see I get a check mark here. Now using either of these arrow key banks on the bottom right here, I can then adjust these controls. And you can see with this one, you see the mouse move, so they do 2 different things. This one can adjust the parameter, and this one does the same thing, but it uses a mouse scroll to adjust the parameter. So you can see instead of the mouse moving, we can just move the parameter on its own. And the reason for the 2 different ones is you'll find some VSTs work better with one versus the other, so we gave you the option. So that parameter, as long as this plugin window stays in this place, I will be able to jump to this parameter and start adjusting it. So if my mouse is somewhere else, I can press that key, the mouse jumps to the correct position, and I can make my adjustments. And if I wanted to assign the 3 other adjustments to 3 other keys, I can do that very simply. Take my mouse, hover it over this parameter, press and hold the key. 3rd one, press and hold. and the fourth parameter. Press and hold, and now I can jump between these and make my adjustments. Now, one thing you'll have to note is if you move the window to a different location and press the assignment, it is going to go back to the part of the screen where that window was. So it is not going to remember the location in that floating window. So in this case, if you decide to move your window somewhere else, you just have to quickly reassign it, and it will work from that point forward. So as a practice, it might be a good idea to make your assignments on windows where you are comfortable having this window always appear. And you can do that for any of the keys on this page. So you can have them assigned, and you can always go in and assign a name that pertains to the VST and the parameter you've assigned it to, so it will always be easy to remember for you. So that's it. That's the Pro Tools Pro Pack. Hopefully this can help improve your sessions, speed up your workflow. So as always, thanks very much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.